if we're live.
All right, we are live. Oh wait, hang on. Let me edit this crap.
Are we in the machine?
All right, now we're live. Yep.
There we go.
Good morning.
Welcome back, everybody. Another weekly SEO jam. I guess we should call it the bi-weekly SEO jam, but that sounds significantly less cool. As you guys can see, I just want to give a little shout out before we get going, but we're having a little get together. I would call it maybe like a mini mastermind at the Lane Train's house, which you can see is like pretty fucking epic over there. I'm going to be there. He's going to be there. So if you guys are interested in joining it, it's very like kind of private. This is not a big public hoopla kind of thing, but if you guys are interested, let us know and we'll send you an invite with some details.
Yeah, we've got 5 people right now, and we've got a max 10 because day 1 is going to be a guided fly fishing adventure about 30 minutes here from the house, and it's like on world-class trophy waters. We're going to be catching like big trout, sight fishing for them with a guide. So there's no equipment needed, no experience needed. The guides are literally going to teach you exactly how to, how to throw the fly, how to catch, how to set the hook, how to catch them. It's going to be awesome. We have a catered lunch midday right there at the clubhouse on the property, and it's a private property too, we're not in public waters, so it's going to be epic. And then we only have a max 10 for that day, so we've got like 5 spots left. My boys are going to be 2 of those 5 spots that we've got. Frankie's going to be one. I'm going to be one. Got one other person coming. So yeah, it's going to be 2 just fun days. Day 2 we're going to go 4-wheeling. We've got a really, really awesome place that people come from all over the place to go 4-wheeling. It's about a mile here from the house, and so we just hop on the 4-wheelers and head over, and then we'll go 4-wheeling all day out there and go rock climbing with the 4-wheelers and do some really fun shit. And then optional day 3 would be a hike. We can go hike a 12,000 foot peak, a 13,000 foot peak, as much as your lungs can take. Frankie, we'll hike.
Yeah. Well, I'm a wimp, but I'm doing it. I'm wimpy, but I'll make it.
We could even camp one night. We've got a campground right down here by the we'll just, if nothing else, we'll go down there one night and have a little fire and just have a good time.
Yeah.
So as you can see, it's beautiful out here.
If you guys ever wanted to hang with 2 legends in person, now is the time. It's not.
We're not making any money on this. Literally, we're just. In fact, I kind of was going to make it more formal. I decided I wasn't making any money on it anyway. So I'm putting a little less time into it. Whoever comes, and we'll have a good time. And if you want to join Frankie and I, and even my 2 boys, for some fun adventures here in the Rocky Mountains, fly into Denver on the 16th. 17th and 18th, we're doing really fun stuff. Maybe the 19th if you want to stay, and then leave the 19th or 20th. And there's 2 Airbnbs here. Like, I got neighbors at Airbnb, so we'll be able to just kind of bunk people in 1 or 2 of the Airbnbs, and everyone will be really close, and we'll hit the hot tub at night and have good times during the day.
There you guys go. Cool. Let's get into our jam a little bit here, because you and I have been seeing a lot of GBP questions, account suspensions, verification. And we're not talking like guys, running like spam accounts. We're talking about like legit client stuff. And as you and many people know, Google customer support is like basically like wait a month and a half to tell you some copy and paste, fuck you, we're not going to do anything. Like, that's what most people are dealing with.
Yeah. And it's happening to legitimate businesses. Like, for sure, we want it to happen to the illegitimate businesses, the fake profiles, the rank and rents. Like, I've got, friends that are in the rank and rent industry, but honestly, I don't like it. I don't like the rank and rent industry. I think it really does damage to legitimate business owners. So I'm glad that Google is trying to fight the rank and rent or fake spamming, industry that creates fake profiles. But there's a lot of collateral damage that happens to legitimate businesses, and it's hard, and it can be actually very devastating to a business. And it's not happening to just 1 or 2. This is not like 1 or 2s. This is happening to like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of businesses, because Google literally has millions of them, businesses in its ecosystem. So, it's happening at a large scale. And so I figured me and Frankie and I were talking, we figured we would just jam a little bit on this, because I do have a lot on this already kind of put together in the school community SEO Success Academy. So go ahead. If you want to say something, Frankie.
No, I was just saying that's cool. Like, I just, like wanted people to know, like, if it's happening to you, you're not unique in it.
You're right. Exactly. And that's
that's
important for agencies. That's, so if you're an agency owner listening to this, a large part of managing the client relationship, both upfront as you're selling them SEO and or PPC, and as you're conducting it month over month, is the education process really doesn't stop, and it starts before they're even a client. And if you don't do a good job educating them, then there's just really unrealistic expectations. The unrealistic expectation can be that, if you're an agency and you're handling their Google business profile, their local SEO, and you're handling their website, that, everything should go, 100% right all the time.
Yeah.
And the reality is obviously vastly different than that, because as an agency owner, we are subject to third-party platforms and guidelines and algorithms, that being largely Google. I mean, obviously there's others than that, other beside that, but the one where, the elephant in the room here is that we're talking about is the GBP profile, Google Maps ecosystem. And so Google and its algorithm are really in control of this, and there's nothing that you or any other agency can do, even when these things happen, because the legitimate businesses are getting their profiles suspended. However, there are things to really look for, and that's what we want to kind of dive into today, is to, help you understand or how to audit, and how to kind of do a forensic audit of a GBP profile and the related entity, because we're going to get into entity related information, because Google's algorithm and the manual or human verifiers who are assigned the appeals are going to look for some very basic stuff that, I would say greater than 50% of business owners overlook or have wrong. That doesn't mean that you're automatically going to have your GBP profile suspended if you have it wrong. But if your GBP profile does get suspended and you have it wrong, and you try to re-verify and you don't correct some of these very basic things that are really overlooked oftentimes, then you're just asking for a denial of your suspension appeal. And you're just going to get very, very frustrated.
How stressful that is in the middle of it, because you probably have a client barking down your throat, like, what's happening, and then of course Google takes their sweet ass time, and then 6 weeks go by and they tell you no. So you want to get this right the first time is kind of the point of that.
So I'm just going to kind of, unveil a little bit of what we have in here in module 3 of the SEO Success Academy for everyone's benefit. This is actually included in the membership, the whole module, or I'm sorry, the whole course is. It's really just 3 modules. How do you handle the verifications? How do you handle suspensions? And then there's reasons why. And this is really kind of your checklist for your forensic audit. So we'll go through that today. Just as an aside here, would love to invite all of you listening into the community. This is a personal community that I directly and personally nurture, am involved in. I'm just about to put the finishing touches on the process of SEO, which is a 10-module masterclass on how I have conducted SEO for the better part of like 8 to 9 years, including 15 years, up to 17 years, really, of, just my own learning, failures, the things that I've learned across the last 15 to 17 years in doing SEO, and now doing it at scale inside of our white label agency. I'm just kind of unveiling in the course exactly how we do it, or exactly how I teach our team how to do it, and it'll include even our task list templates as bonuses. So this is not included in your membership, because it's obviously a huge value here. It's literally 15 years of IP. Including everything I learned at Signal Genesis before I sold it last year. our members are going to get a very, very reduced price of $4.99, and then non-members, it'll be $1,999 for the course. The task list templates alone are worth, I don't know. It's really hard to put a price list on it because it's 15 years of trial and error and refinements and trial and error and refinements in conducting SEO for, thousands of campaigns. So before I jump back in here, it right now is $17 per month, and that price will be honored for all of our current members. It does go up in 5 days to $27 a month. 10 every 100 members until I get to 1,000 members, it's going to go up $10 per month, and then existing members come in and lock their price in. So really, really huge value. You get kind of me as your tutor for $17 a month. It's pretty hard to beat. But let's dive in here into the big reasons why. And so, Frankie, just chime in here as we go through some of these, because I know you've had questions that have come from people in your community, and I've seen it as well.
Could I just say, to me, the most stressful part of it is you get thrown into this unknown sort of limbo, and you often have a client who is very impatient about the process, going, what's happening? And it's not as if you can rush things along, because as you mentioned, there's a giant third-party tech conglomerate known as the Google that doesn't move as fast as you want them to. And
this really should be part of your CYA. If you're an agency owner listening to this, you need to educate the business owner about these dynamics and the third-party dynamics that are in place, i.e. Google is in control of all this, not us. And so if your profile were to get suspended, it's nothing that we can do. It's something that we've done. It is happening, and there's plenty of obviously public news about it as well. But this would actually be a really good kind of copy and paste, just to kind of go, here are all the potential reasons. And it's not exhaustive, but these are all the major potential reasons. So let's dive in here. Address/location issues, probably the biggest number one reason. Virtual offices, PO boxes, mailboxes, shared office spaces like co-working. Google does not, that's against Google's TOS or guidelines as far as a legitimate office address. Now, that does not mean that people or businesses do not have verified locations at a co-working space or even at virtual offices. They may have been verified 6 years ago and still just remain verified because their profile is authoritative enough to not trigger an updated suspension because the guidelines have changed, or Google now knows about that address and knows it's a virtual address or virtual office and not an actual physical office. All sorts of things have kind of transpired just, month over month, year over year around this. But what's happening is I am seeing businesses, legitimate businesses who have verified profiles, lots of reviews, been around for maybe several years or more, that are now seeing their profiles getting suspended because they're at an address that's questionable, or they were at a co-working space that got verified early on, but now Google knows it's a co-working space and that's game over for that location. And so it's the algorithm's automatically suspending those profiles. And so if this is the issue, you're not going to be able to get around a suspension because you're at an address that is against Google's guidelines, even if it's updated guidelines since that profile was originally verified. So this is a game over here. If you're in that kind of situation, you're going to have to change and go to a legitimate address. That's it. There's trying to do anything else is going to be a very frustrating, long, and money costing experience. So the quickest fix for this issue in particular, or address issues, are going to be to find and get to a legitimate address. So businesses operating from a residential address, it's okay. However, there are guidelines and updated guidelines over the last couple of years that Google's put in place around businesses that operate from home. So you can operate from home and hide the address, and then you're just kind of good to go. And you're a service area business at that point with a hidden address. You can show the address from a residential home. However, if you show the address, then Google is going to look for signage and separate entrance location to the office that is separate from the home. in some way, shape, or form. And so I've seen businesses that operate from a residential address that have had the address shown. Um, there's a lot of home-based offices, but they actually receive, I think of accountants, for example, is a really good one. They often, people need to come over to the office just really quickly to sign their tax returns or, drop stuff off, documents off. And the accountant, didn't know any better and showed the address and has been fined. And all of a sudden, boom, soft suspension because they're at a residential address with the address showing. So it's not a service area business, and then Google requires them to prove that they've got proper signage and proper separate entrances to an actual office. That,
correct me if I'm wrong, Lane, but that's like typically like you got to actually submit a video and show your sign and your
yep, for sure, yep. So that's residential addresses. So let's go inaccurate and let's jump into business information because they really kind of tie together. And this is a big one. Okay. This is probably one of the biggest reasons that people are unaware of. And so they get a soft suspension for any given reason, and then they go to verify. And so their address, they're at an address that their address is showing at their office, that at that profile location, the profile gets soft suspension. They have to re-verify, and the address that their GBP profile is at does not match their address that's registered with the Department of State in their state. So when you obviously as a company, you have to file and register as a company to do business in a given state. And you have to put in your principal address when you file your company, and every year when you file your annual report. And that principal address oftentimes is a different address than it doesn't match what's on the GBP profile. And Google's algorithm is automatically scraping. Those are all public records. Okay, so it's automatically scraping and it's got data on every single corporate filing in all 50 states of the United States. And obviously this can go, I don't know all the laws and public record laws, in Europe, for example, or Ireland, but in the US, these are all public records, and Google can go and just cross-reference what does the Department of State have on file for the principal address, and does it match the GBP profile address? And oftentimes the answer is no. And then you submit your re-verification in your appeal, and you're like, it's a legitimate business. Here's our articles of incorporation, and we're just overlooking this very, very simple but very profound inaccuracy around the address. Frankie, you want to pipe in on anything else?
No, this is actually super interesting to me because, like I hear so much about it, but I don't always know like the ins and outs of what's happening. Like I get the 30,000 foot view level, not necessarily the level of detail you're getting.
Yeah. So here's Florida's Department of State. It's somebiz.org. You can go in here and you can do search records, and you can search for any business by name. And so if you have mismatches here's the other big mismatch, the name. Okay, the name is filed as Cindy and Fred LLC, but they're doing business as Fred's Plumbing Service, and then on their GBP profile they have Fred's Plumbing Service, and then they get their GBP profile suspended for any given reason, whatever, right? And then they go to re-verify, and there's no record of Fred's Plumbing Service anywhere. It's just Cindy and Fred LLC. And then oftentimes they have their home address as their filing address with the Department of State, even though they have a different address that's a legitimate address for their office, for their plumbing company that customers actually even come to. But because of all these inaccuracies, right, the algorithm it's auto suspending this because there doesn't even need to be a human involved in this, right? It's an auto suspension because Google says, we have this record on file, and it doesn't match up the GBP profile, or the GBP profile has this name and we can't find any record of any LLC or any corporation filed with that name anywhere. And so it's a potential spammy fake listing, right? And you're going to be, so anyway.
Yeah, we're cutting. I don't know if it's my end or yours, but you're cutting out a little bit for me. I just wanted to say on that point, like, like if you look at it from Google's perspective, people aren't going to pay them and use their system if it's all overrun by spam. And so they have to take proactive measures. And I can tell you that as somebody who's participated in SEO forums for 20 years, like people are always trying to find a shortcut that in essence is spam, is some workaround for the algorithm. And so I know it's super frustrating, but you also have to look at it like it is a necessary thing that they have to do proactively to make sure that, like, what people are finding in their algorithm is a legitimate business, that Fred's Plumbing isn't some fucking crypto scammer who's throwing people in the trunk of his taxi and holding them at gunpoint. It's got a not too many people would use Google. So I know it's frustrating, but I also sometimes, like, if you look at the other perspective and understand what they're trying to do, you'll just play the game better. I think you'll play the game more as it's meant to be played, and ultimately win for yourselves and your clients.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Just to run through some of these because we're kind of running short on time here, but we've got any phone numbers that redirect to call centers or are shared with other businesses might be completely like obscure like this, right? You've got a shared call center and you didn't even know, but they gave you a phone number from the call center years ago, but now they're using that same phone number for other businesses. And so all of a sudden the algorithm sees this shared phone number and it goes, soft suspension, and something's not right, and then, so I've been saying this a couple of times now, but something like this, which is really kind of innocuous and really, no big deal, really. It's legitimate, even though the algorithm looks at that and goes, that's a potential flag. And so it's soft suspension happens. But if you have any of these other issues in play, now your appeal starts to get a lot more complicated. And if you don't address these other issues that are in play, it could have just been simply this phone number issue that really caused the soft suspension. But then you go to appeal and you go, well, no, you do an explanation. You're like, and they still don't approve your appeal. And you're like, that was a very legitimate explanation. It's a legitimate call center. No big deal. That should that should lift the suspension. But then you've got these other things in play, and that you don't even realize that that's also what's now not allowing you to get re-verified or get the suspension lifted. So it's important to do a forensic audit of all of these issues because any one of them could cause the soft suspension, but you may have 6 or 8 of them really actually in play that could be preventing an actual approval of your appeal. Website domains that don't match the business name or seem unrelated. So be cautious of that. That happens a lot. It's, fredsplumbingservice.com. But again, there is zero reference to Fred's Plumbing Service in any state, especially in the target state where the profile is, and so, or the listing is. And so, be very cautious. Also just kind of triggers a note around the diversity update. Joy Hawkins coined it the diversity update, so credit to her on that. It was an update that happened within the local maps ecosystem. And so what happened is that if oftentimes you see profiles that have the homepage as the URL in the Google Business listing, but the homepage was also ranking on page 1 in organic for some of the target keywords. And if that was happening, then this diversity update basically kicked your listing out of all the local maps rankings, at least off of page 1, because it didn't want to put more than one asset on page 1 for any given entity. It wants diversity of search results, which is kind of where that name came from. So, website, the website domain or the URL that you have in your Google Business Profile listing matters for more than one reason. I just gave you 2. So, if you've got automated phone systems and sometimes even phone numbers that, don't necessarily all work, be careful of that. That's a big issue. Let's see here. Policy violations, obviously, if you have any of these issues in play, especially services that require licensing, and so if you're this Google has named this category of services or category of businesses that provide these services as like the YMYL category. It stands for your money, your life. And so if you're in a type of business that provides a service that affects people's money or their life, their home, their finances, their personal security, things like that, their personal health, then you're going to have greater scrutiny because you fall into a YMYL business category. And so if you are a YMYL related type of business, then you're going to have greater scrutiny, and oftentimes you're going to have to provide the licensing docs that would allow you to be able to sell your products or services to the public, because those products or services require licensing. Plumbing is another example. I mean, what med spas are an example, plastic surgeons, any kind of health related doctor, banking and consumer finance, all of those fall under YMYL categories. And so they fall under greater scrutiny and potential requirements for providing licenses to do business. We'll skip down to here because I just talked about the industry specific challenges. I kind of just touched on that anyway, right here, the YMYL stuff, but external factors. So, and this involves also some ways to fix things. So, Frankie, you had this situation just a few days ago. You approached me at an agency who had a client who, couldn't get the new website updated in the listing, right? I think that was the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, they, as the manager / owner, were going in, putting in the new URL, and then the system wasn't saving it. And they had done that, I don't know, 3-4 times, and to no end, no avail. The system just kept kicking it, not saving it. And so you can, as an external user, I can go to a listing, I'll just go to a listing here. If I open up a listing here, if I'm logged into my Google profile, which I am, I can go to suggest and edit. Usually, I may have to go into this actual listing. Let's go into a listing. So, this
good name, by the way. Can we just say that?
What's
that?
Go
back to that guy.
This one right here.
The Frankie's Plumbing. Where was that?
Oh, yeah. Frankie's Plumbing.
Just saying, right?
You're right.
He's surely Italian if he's a plumber and he's got a name named Frankie, which, by the way, throws people off that I got dark hair and my family's not Italian.
It's giving me this new search result here, which is not bringing up the full.
Clearly not as good as Frankie's Plumbing. I'm just saying, if we got a choice, we're going with Frankie. Him and I are going to be paisans.
There you go. So there's suggest and edit, right? And so as a public user, I can come in here and I can go, well, that's not the right URL. It should be, should be that one. I don't know what all this other stuff is, and I can submit that. And because I have, because I have a local 7 or level 7, level 8 local guide account, my suggestions have more weight and authority, and so they're more likely to be accepted by the algorithm versus someone who's got a very unauthoritative Google profile. So that you can go to the suggest and edit, and the algorithm will just review the edit and then decide to take it or not. And so what you can do is you can crowdsource this, and I can do it, and Frankie can do it, and like 4 or 5 other people can all go to the suggest and edit, and all put in the exact URL that we're trying to, and that is a way. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass, but that is a way to force the algorithm to accept a change, because it's seeing this being suggested from the public standpoint. And so if enough people do it, the algorithm goes, okay, this has got to be the right one, and so that's just one way to fix some of these external factors. Now, competitors can flag a business, and there's also now a new reporting process that you can report profiles that are in violation of Google guidelines. And so competitors can do it for illegitimate reasons, and you can also, if you see competitors who have illegitimate Google profiles, they're breaking guidelines, you can now report them.
Can I just share a little story about competitors sabotaging, because it was amusing? I mentioned this before to you, but most people here haven't heard it. I was at a plastic surgery conference, and I was running an analysis for this like old plastic surgeon who had probably about 6 facelifts too many, and her face was like kind of like, and I remember she asked me to run an analysis, and I started looking, and it was clear like somebody had built like 10,000 spammy backlinks to her website. And it was in the early days when Google Disavow had just come out and everything like that. And I remember the number one keyword that was incoming for her was forced hand job humiliation. And I thought, how many people are Googling forced hand job humiliation? But she's going to rank number one for it. And I remember when I showed her to her, she was shocked, but her sucked back face couldn't express it. so I was like, hey, if you're trying to be number one for forced hand job humiliation, I actually didn't want her as a client back in those days, because it would have taken 3 months just to clean up what the competitor had done to her, and that competitor probably wouldn't have stopped in the process, and it was like, it just wasn't going to be worth it. But I still remember that. I was like, let's run it. It started out very professional. Let's run a little analysis, see where you're at. Okay, this is your link profile. Do you do any OnlyFans modeling that I don't know of?
That's right. That's hilarious. Well, on that note, I think we can probably call a wrap on today's jam session. Well, I hope you guys got some value out of some of these reasons. And if you want the full doc and access to everything else, just join in SEO Success Academy. It's super cheap and lots of value inside. Love to have you as a member. Join us on a bi-weekly basis, where we have switched to twice a month. It's because Frankie's got little kids.
I think we need to do one of these in Colorado, is what I'm saying.
For sure. We'll do it live in July.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, I hope you all have a great day. Frankie, my brother, have a great day, buddy.
Peace. We appreciate you guys watching.
Have a great day, everyone. See you. All right.